Hey guys, I'm Mitch, one of the hosts of the show. Before we start, I just wanted to thank you all for listening and tell you something cool. In the description of the episode, there's a link to our Discord if you want to just come hang out with us. We stream there, watch movies, game together, and just hang out. You can even be a guest host on our show and suggest games for us to play and review. So don't be shy, just come hang out with us, it'll be fun. Also, there's a link to our Facebook so you can join the page and give it a like, and it helps a lot if you do. Same with giving us a 5-star review on iTunes and writing something small. Even if it's just, hey guys, like that'll do. That's fine. It really does help us get to the top of the charts. Thank you all again, and let's get on with the show. Welcome to Tower Couch Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch. Today we got Mike.
Hello.
We got Sebastian.
What's up?
And we got Sean.
Hello.
We have Brandon, but he's just hanging out. He ain't going to say nothing.
Something.
There you go.
What's up?
We're talking about Baldur's Gate 3 tonight, but first, Sean. Sean's our golden boy tonight. He's going to teach us about D&D and how it actually works before we do this show.
Do you have 3 hours?
I got like 30 minutes before we actually game talk it, but yeah, go for it. Tell us, what's this charisma, this dex, this all this? What is D&D about? What is this?
Well, that's heart. D&D is communicative storytelling. Basically, any sci-fi fantasy show or TV or book, whatever you like, whether it be Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Star Trek, you can play that in those universes and those kinds of stuff just with your friends and making up bullshit stories. But like a video game or anything else, you need to find ways to adjudicate, shall we say, conflicts. Like if a door is locked and you want to pick it, well, how do you decide whether you succeed or not? So the game has statistics or attributes. And since we're talking about D&D specifically, since the 5e system is used in Baldur's Gate 3, we'll go with their attributes of strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. And basically, they're just meant to make a rough statistical approximation of how good your character is at certain things. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. You've got strength, which is how strong you are. You've got dexterity, generally how fast, quick, and dexterous you are. You've got constitution, which is generally about body resiliency and cardio, I guess, if you want to call it that. There is some overlap between these, which is why they're broken down into 2 subsets: your physical stats, the strength, dex, and con, and then your mental stats, the intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And there will be overlap for them, especially in the tabletop. But to move on, you've got wisdom, which is generally, if you want to put it that, it's street smarts versus book smarts of intelligence. An intelligent person knows why something is the right choice or things like that. They can tell you all the laws of a land down to the letter, but a wise person would tell you why you shouldn't follow those laws in a particular instance because of human elements and just life experience. And then there's charisma, which is, Sebastian. Basically, it's how good of a talker, how pretty you are. It covers a lot of things, and there are with all of them, there are different, different ways that they can be expressed in the physical character that they come out with. For instance, charisma covers both your ability to talk as well as how good looking you are. But a high charisma character could be ugly, but they're just so freaking charismatic, so good at talking and being personable that nobody cares. They're just a fun person to be around. Doesn't matter that
calling
they're
me
an ugly
out.
fuck.
Calling me out in front of everyone. Thanks.
You're welcome. I figured that you need an introduction.
Well, like, there's like a big difference between charm and charisma at the same time. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like,
But
they
they're
make
both-
two different things. You know what I mean?
And there are game systems that do that. The champion system or the hero system, depending on which version you played, separates them into, I believe it's comeliness, which is just how physically good looking you are, and your presence, which is how good you are at talking and making yourself known. But in D&D, I'll put it this way, there's no right or wrong way to do that. There are more optimal ways to determine statistics. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be fully able to simulate real life and all its variables with attributes. So you just have to do your best and try and be consistent and not be overly complicated, because if you do that, then the game bogs down and it's not fun to play because it's just spreadsheets, which some people like that. Welcome to EVE Online. But in this particular instance, with Baldur's Gate 3, they use the D&D 5e system, which is the latest one, though even then saying that, I think it's more than 10 years old by now. It is, quote-unquote, a simplified version of older versions of D&D. But it's a very fun system, and it's baked into a lot of other games. Like, if you played World of Warcraft or the KOTOR games for Star Wars, most early video games of the 90s and early 2000s generally had based in them some form of D20 or D100 system that was rolled in the background to determine things for your characters. But yeah, anything else you want me to explain about the D&D in general before we move on?
Mostly just the attributes. Like, I was getting all confused whenever I was playing Baldur's Gate because it's based off of 5th edition. Now, how old is 5th edition now?
At least 10 years. I'm gonna give me a second to look it up. And
But
when
like,
was?
because like, is Pathfinder a part of an edition?
2014.
Really?
9 years. All right.
Yeah.
Pathfinder is not actually it's a pseudo-official version of D&D. When 3rd and 4th edition came out, I think, and to be fair, I started D&D playing Pathfinder, so I actually don't know the older editions all that well, so if some of our listeners are...
I hear people criticize Pathfinder, like, a lot, and I don't understand, like, because I don't know anything about it, that's why I'm bringing it up. So.
It is much more complicated and expansive than 5e. But that said, it actually was a lot better, and it was created by fans for the sole purpose of fixing one of the editions that had come out, I think it was 4th edition, which was even more complicated than Pathfinder. And I loved it. It gave you a whole lot more options, but it had a very high learning curve coming in. Like when my friends first got me into D&D, I didn't understand making characters or anything like that. There was that wall of like, there's so much information that I feel like I don't understand. I literally just went to my friends and said, make me something. And they're like, all right, what do you want to play? I'm like, I want to hit stuff and I want 2 shields. And they're like, all right,
that's how it
we'll
was
make you a
with me.
fighter.
Yeah, my first character, that's exactly how it was. Like, hey, this is what I want to be. And he was like, maybe you should specialize in this, this, and this, and do these talents, this, and this. And yeah, that's the thing, right?
But that's the proper essence of how to play a tabletop role-playing game. Is you should, even though it's very fun to get focused on the mechanics and min-max or find cool combos you can do in the game with just the mechanics of it. At the end of the day, when you actually want to have a good role-playing experience and actually playing in the sessions, you want to approach it just like you're a newbie and say, what is the end goal that I want? You know, screw the mechanics of the game. What do I want my character to actually be like? And then go back to the mechanics and be like, well, what do I have to do with the mechanics to make that a reality?
Right. And when you role play, it's like basically my entire thing. Like, this is exactly what I told him. I was like, look, I want to be able to fuck shit up, but I'm gonna be that dude that just comes with the funny and a bunch of punchlines. And that was my character, my entire first like tabletop game, which was Star Wars. And we still have not finished that campaign. We did like 5 sessions, and then we moved on to a different game because they like to switch games constantly. So
it's a pretty common thing.
It's like I've never finished a campaign. Like never.
There are quite a few people that have never finished campaigns, and a lot of that just simply comes down to life in general. Makes it difficult for, depending on how many players you have, to actually keep a session going. But beyond that, it's also the fact that stories don't end. Like, at the end of the day, just like with a book, where, like, with Lord of the Rings, well, that's probably a bad one because Tolkien actually did write finishing end stories and really tied up a lot of his stuff. But with most things, the stories go beyond just what's written or shown in the video, and there's always another story to tell. And the same with D&D, because it's communicative storytelling. Just because your characters defeated the big bad evil guy of that particular campaign, they went on to do other things. You just haven't told the stories yet. So it's pretty common for those kinds of campaigns to just peter off, sadly.
Interesting.
Oh, there's a dog attack. Are you okay, sir?
Yeah, there's the dog attack. They're just barking because the door isn't open. But this is what I was going to ask, though. Like, so when it comes to attributes and shit, I didn't read the descriptions or anything, but I would think, like, wisdom would be, like, the whole, oh, you're better with magic because of wisdom. Or is it intellect? Or is it intellect? Like, when Sebastian plays his character with, like, 3 charisma, what do you do, Sebastian, with 3 charisma? What do you do with that?
So how I play that is I'm not an ugly person. I'm not very good looking, but I have it as in the fact that I say the wrong thing at the wrong time, always. I just speak freely. There's the filter that most people have. So, like, yeah, we'll go to talk to somebody. I'm like, isn't this the guy we're supposed to rob or kidnap or something like that? Like, stuff like that. I'll just say, like, whatever I'm thinking at that moment. So it's like it's gotten us almost in some trouble a few times.
You just play me in real life.
No, I play myself. I play myself in real life, pretty much. It's easy because I just. What would I say?
And another example would be if anybody's watched the D&D movie that came out, great. If you haven't watched it, it's worth it, even if you don't know D&D.
Chris Pine coming out of nowhere crushing it, by the way.
The barbarian-esque female character in that, who is first introduced with Chris Pine's character, I feel terrible for not remembering her character's name. I can never remember actors' names, but she straight up is a very low charisma character. She is constantly saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, and it's hilarious. But that's how you play a low charisma character. But to go back to your thing about, like, what determines magic, specifically in Baldur's Gate, because I suppose we should bring that back to that. Baldur's Gate is based in the world of Faerun, which has existed for a long time in the D&D mythos, if you want to call it that. And it is one of the official settings that Wizards of the Coast came out with. And in that setting, at the very least, intellect, wisdom, charisma, they can all be used to do magic. Technically, there are offshoots that allow you to use the physical attributes, but those are rare and haven't been introduced in 5th edition yet. But intelligence is usually reserved for wizards or artificers, and the way that's viewed is you view magic the way scientist views reality. You are using your intelligence to find the things that allow you to shift reality in ways other people can't. Now, it also functions off of this concept known as the weave of magic, which is created by a god called Mystra, the god of magic, which is encountered in Baldur's Gate 3 through Gale. One of the companions, though playable characters, because all the companions are playable, except for the ones you get later, technically. I shouldn't have said that. Either way. Yes. Well, and you are learning incantations and certain ways to bend the weave to create supernatural effects. But then you have characters like clerics and druids who are wisdom-based. And there has to be some suspension of disbelief in all this, because it's not like it's a perfect magic system that makes 100% sense. It's fantasy. Jazz hands magic for some things. For clerics and druids, though, theirs comes down to their faith and their connection to a higher power, such as a deity or nature. And they are off, and so they based it off of wisdom. That's one of the weaker connections, but there are other ones which have, like, for instance, bards make sense that their magic's based off charisma. It's all about charming people and about just being able to bend people to your will or manipulate them, which manipulation has a bad connotation, but not always. But take a sorcerer, for instance. Sorcerers are based off of their bloodlines. They're charisma-based, though there's arguments they should be constitution-based because of their powers from their bloodlines. The idea, though, with a sorcerer is that at some point in your lineage, which it could start with you, a being of greater power somehow got involved with your bloodline. Maybe your parents fucked a dragon, or a parent or you touched a very powerful magical artifact and it infused partly in your body, and so your magic is inherent to you. It is part of you. It is very unique, and oftentimes sorcerers have a backstory that revolves around them trying to control their power or remove their power entirely because it's killing them or things like that, which is why there's the argument that it should be based off constitution, but that probably is for another time. You also then have
fuck a dragon.
A lot of dragons, especially the more powerful ones in the world.
Well, well, D&D, I know there's a specific reason why people can fuck dragons and how the anatomy actually works. I don't think there is one in Shrek.
It depends. My understanding of it, though, lore-wise, because we're not going to get too anatomically correct into this, a lot of powerful dragons have the ability to polymorph into humanoid shapes, so they can look like a human or a drow or a dwarf, whatever they choose, because they're super powerful magical beings at that point who've lived for hundreds or thousands of years, depending on the lore in the world. And so they can get bored or just decide to have a little fun and play in the mortal world, kind of like Greek gods would.
Yes.
I'm going to a Shrek rave in Pittsburgh. I already told Casey I'm doing it. They announced it. I was like, "There's not a choice here." I'm sorry.
But last but not least is warlocks. And I know I didn't go over paladins, but they're a weird one. Warlocks get their power. They are charisma-based as well. They get their power by making a deal with an entity. Oftentimes you see it being devils or demons. Devils are great ones and are showcased wonderfully in Baldur's Gate 3, the whole pact idea with them, and making a deal with an evil entity and how that can go wrong. But they basically say, the very general gist of it is, give me power and I will have to do what you say. It can get much more specific and complex depending on that. For instance, in Baldur's Gate 3, you've got the devil, who's a wonderful character with Will as her warlock, and it's a very adversarial relationship. Well, there are some warlocks who have very cooperative relationships with their patron. Other ones, they can barely communicate with their patron. Great Old Ones are wonderful for that, because Great Old Ones are often practically Call of Cthulhu level entities. They aren't always able to speak or communicate in what we would deem normal conversation, and it's more about imparting ideas or emotions, and you have to figure out what your patron is trying to get you to do. But with patrons, if you go against the pact or just piss off your patron, they can just rip your powers away. And gods can do that too, but it's a little different for druids and clerics and paladins, because paladins technically don't have to have a god. It's weird.
It seems like there's a lot of I'll bring this up from Final Fantasy X. Kamari is just a diet version of any other character you would want him to make, or just a complete mix, which would also mean he's just diet of everybody else.
He's a blue mage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just a blue mage, which most of the blue mage skills in that game don't even matter. There's 2 that are actually good. But it's like paladins, what were some of the other ones you were telling me about, where just, why would you get this when you could why would you get a paladin when you could just get a fighter? Why would you get a ranger when you could just get a rogue. You know what I mean?
Well, I would actually please. There are good reasons to choose every class, and those specific instances where I was talking about the ranger over the rogue and the paladin or the fighter over the paladin were specifically when trying to get certain outcomes. Because straight up, if I were to rank them just as which is the more powerful class, paladins and fighters, paladins arguably are the stronger class. Rogues are definitely stronger than rangers. But it all depends on what you want. And at the end of the day, having the strongest character or the strongest class usually won't actually give you the fun you're looking for in a game. It's more about being able to play to the style and the character that you envisioned. Now, some of that does go away when you play a video game like Baldur's Gate 3, where at the end of the day, being a murder hobo can just be kind of fun. So having a powerful character is sometimes the means to the end. But we should make a distinction. Baldur's Gate 3 is based off of the 5th edition system, and it takes a lot from it. But they have, and for good reason, and they did it well, made changes to the way gameplay and mechanics work. And so it's not perfectly compatible, and classes that are arguably weak in the tabletop game aren't in Baldur's Gate 3, and vice versa.
I was wondering if he could go around and kill everybody in this game.
Absolutely.
Still be able to complete it.
Yeah, definitely.
Theoretically, yes and no. My understanding is that certain outcomes, the devs did an incredible job of predicting just about everything a player could do in the game. For instance, one of the big thingamajiggies in the game is getting the nether crystals. Well, what happens? You need them to complete the game. Well, what happens if you throw one off a cliff into a chasm, which a chasm in the game specifically is just a pit that basically it's like you go in there, you die, you throw something in there, you can't get it back. Straight up, it's a game over. You will get a cutscene that shows you turning into an illithid, and you lose the game. So you can technically kill most of the characters in the game and still complete it. But that said, there are certain actions you can take that will just cause you to lose the game.
Now, do those happen like immediately after you do the action, or can you get?
Depends. In the instance of throwing a nether crystal into a chasm, yes. My understanding is that it goes straight into the cutscene of you, basically the end game cutscene you lost. You turn into a Lilith, the Elder Brain takes control over you, and too bad. By the way, suppose we should have declared there are going to be spoilers in this podcast. If you don't like those, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think everybody should probably know that. Just even listening to a show about a game, they're gonna be told shit.
Usually there's a disclaimer at the top, but it's not like we're professionals, so
yeah, we're not doing no disclaimers. If you choose it, cool. Like,
alrighty. But did you have any other specific? Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
We usually do spoilers, so
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But did you want to cover anything more about D&D in general before we move on to the game, or
no? Let's move on to the game. Let's talk about all these what are they called? Legacy characters. These side characters that you use in your party on the way through this game.
I know they have a specific term for them, but I guess what I would call them is canon characters. They are characters that, if there is a proper way to do the storyline, they are in it every time. Now, you can kill them in your own game, and sometimes that's even parts of strategies.
Yeah, I
like
the
2 minute and the 30-minute speed runs to beat the game require you to kill allies. It's hilarious. But yes, you can beat the game in like 2 minutes.
Oh, I did not know that. Is that an achievement?
It involves no. It is entirely using exploits. It involves killing, if I'm not mistaken, Shadowheart, putting her in a chest, putting it on an elemental service like burning fire on the ground, and then you do something and it causes the chest to be just catapulted across the map, and then you go back to camp, go back out of the camp, and you end up with Shadowheart, who is at the part where you can use Gale to detonate in Act 2 and win the game there.
Yeah, me and you both did that. We got that achievement.
Yeah. But we also beat the game the normal way as well. Now, there is a 30-minute way to beat the game normally, and it involves using the jump spell, which is some of the changes that Baldur's Gate 3 made to the mechanics of spells in games are just beautiful, and some should be ported into the tabletop, in my opinion, but that's discussion for another time. But you basically end up frog hopping your way through all the acts super effing fast, and using exploits to get around some things. And in order to kill Gortash really quickly, you use character as an improvised weapon, pick him up, run off, teleport to another point, and throw him off of one of the bridges to get his nether stone.
That's ridiculous.
You literally pick him up out of his coronation ceremony and throw him off the Worm's Bridge, crossing bridge to his death. It's the funniest thing in the world to watch the playthrough.
You could be like Mike, just carrying that dead body the entire time.
Hey, it works.
That's my beloved.
There are legitimate mechanical reasons to do that. It's weird, but yes.
Yeah, the only reason I found out how to do my build in general was just like me and Sebastian were playing. I was throwing shit at people, hurting them real bad, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then Sebastian looks up. He's like, "Dude, there's a build for that." I was like, "Okay."
There was.
Yeah, and dude, that shit carried the team like clear through the whole fucking game. That's a great build. So
immensely fun.
Oh my god, dude! Fucking, it's crazy because like that returning spear just knocks everybody prone on top of doing what it does. Well, half the time anyway. So
there's some very fun combos with items, weapons, skills, classes that are just fun. It is the beauty of Baldur's Gate 3 is the devs clearly knew their audience and made the game tailored to that, understanding that people would intentionally do stupid, nonsensical things in the game just for fun. And they built in stuff to recognize that. For instance, when you first encounter Astarion, it's one of the iconic ones where, he's like, there's an enemy in the bush, and and then it turns out to be a boar, and he uses that to get the drop on you because he's paranoid and, was not a good person and didn't lead a good life. Lots of bad things happened to him, so he's not very trustworthy and wants to ask his questions from a position of power. Well, if you sneak up on Astarion and don't trigger his cutscene and kill him with a sneak attack, and then res him with a scroll, his dialogue changes.
Really?
His dialogue changes to, "They killed me! I can't believe it! They killed me!" Well, thank you for resing me. I suppose that deserves an introduction. Which only would happen if the devs realized ahead of time the players might do this, and let's change the dialogue and have the voice actor record dialogue for that scenario. And it changes as well if you just straight up attack him, and it starts the fight, and you don't kill him using a sneak attack where he doesn't realize. But then you res him afterwards. He goes, "Well, killing it's something to the effect of like, well, that's an interesting way to introduce yourself to me, killing me and then bringing me back." So the devs thought ahead, going, the players might do this stupid, nonsensical thing. Let's reward them for it.
Right. It's probably why it's like, I was looking at ratings on it earlier, and it's just across the board, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10. It's like fucking Skyrim back in our day. Like, good game design. Just really fucking good
solid
game design. You can't argue it. It's just ridiculous.
They didn't skimp. Now, I say that, but there are issues with the game.
Like my returning
performance
pike?
optimization 3. Yes.
Yeah, throw the fucking pike. Oh, you can't just as fast as you can click the attack button and throw again, and then throw. It's like, well, where's my pike? Well, then you gotta exit out of that, and you hear a cha-ching. Like it's like almost like a money thing, like a cha-ching, and that is the sound of you getting your pike back. And
yeah, it's the sound when anything gets placed into your inventory.
Yeah, if you do it too fast, you lose that pike. The pike, you have to go pick it up in the middle of the fight or pick it up afterwards. And I didn't figure that out till like 3/4 way through the game.
And that's one of the things about it that Larian Studios is clearly doing things the right way. Is they've released their 4th major patch, and it had over 1,000 fixes in it, if I recall.
Yeah, I was
and a lot of them were straight up just fixing little bugs like that.
Yeah,
I know the one where
they didn't fix it, by the way.
They fixed a bunch of other things. You can read the patch notes. There's no point in going over them on this. But I believe you wanted to go over the major, the canonical characters, if you want to call them that. There are, 6 canonical characters plus, quote-unquote, Tav, who is just the generic character that you can create. You can, of course, rename them. But I suppose in order of... I don't want to speak, because I would actually need the character creation screen. Does anyone remember, can you play as Lizelle from the character creation screen?
I know she's a quote-unquote legacy character, so yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
I'm going to pull it up, because I don't want to tell people the wrong thing, just because I can't remember what the character creation screen looks like.
I mean, it just says legacy characters, and you can just pick whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the one you got.
Okay, so you can play Lizelle. So the origin characters, that's what they call them.
Origin characters.
Are, Shadowheart, Gale, Asterion, Will, Lae'zel, Karlach, and the Dark Urge. And spoilers for all this going forward. Shadowheart is a cleric of Shar, female half-elf. She is an interesting... Why can't I think of the proper word? Paradox. Because she serves a god that is in what the game terms would call evil alignment. Not a good god. And she has a very hard-nosed view on some things, very practical. But other times you can tell she's got a soft heart under her where she doesn't like unnecessary cruelty to animals or certain things, and she has a bit of religious zealotry in her. Makes sense for a cleric. But in good storytelling, it's foreshadowing for her backstory, which honestly I loved her backstory. Definitely the reveal with her parents. That scene right there, I loved. It was awesome.
She
got
wouldn't
Gale.
join me because I fucking apparently helped somebody do something shitty and I didn't even realize it. Yeah, I went dude, I spent an hour trying to get to her because my map, I was trying to figure it out on the map and I couldn't figure out how the fuck to get to her. I could see her, I could see where the location was, but I couldn't figure out how to get there. Once I finally got to her, I thought you said Karlach.
No.
Okay, go on with Shadowheart. Anyway, I couldn't fucking get Karlach. Anyway, piece of shit. Go on.
Gotcha. You got Gale, who's a wizard. He was once the chosen of Mystra, the god of magic, mentioned earlier. And he basically is a lot of these characters are good representations of a quote-unquote typical example of their class. Gale is a wizard who got too arrogant for his britches and got in too deep with certain magics, and that left him with a literal ticking time bomb inside him.
He fucked that goddess, though.
Yes, he did.
But that's basically what that entire story revolves around.
Yeah, it's him figuring out if he wants to actually get back into Mystra's good graces, because she essentially tells him to kill himself to redeem himself.
Right.
But that is part of the common tropes in D&D fantasy storytelling is the gods don't always tell you exactly what they want you to do. They tell you what you need to hear to get you to do what they actually want you to do. though that could just be reverse psychology and, self-fulfilling prophecy style bullshit. It just depends on how deeply you view into them being, crazy, super unrecognizably intelligent individuals and how human they are, quote unquote, at least emotionally. You then have Asterion, who is a rogue, and you can change all their classes to be whatever, but these are just what their typical starting classes based off their backstory and when you first get them. And Asterion has a deep, dark secret. He's a pimp. He's a playboy, philanderer type character with a deep, dark backstory. He's the wounded heart bad boy.
He's my favorite character. I love Asterion.
A lot of them are very polarizing. They seem to have some have huge fandoms and huge hate-doms, if you can call them that. But Asterion has the dark secret that he doesn't want to get out, which is that he is a vampire spawn, and he, through the story, has managed to get away from the vampire that controlled him, Cazador, and he doesn't want the same thing that a lot of the other party characters do, which it is one of the criticisms of the game that is very legitimate, is it's very difficult to play this game as an evil character. Not that you can't do evil things, but
you do many evil things. Many.
Oh, can you ever? But generally the game punishes you pretty hard for it. And it feels like, at the very least, and I don't mean that punishes you as like, you did a bad thing so the guards come after you kind of thing. I mean, mechanically and story-wise, you just don't get to experience what feels like as fulfilling of a story. And legitimately, the creators, I'm not saying they have, but they could say, well, yeah, if you're going to be a murder hobo, you're not getting story because you're killing everything before you can hear it.
Right, it's like that one part of the story where you got to go to the absolute camp where all the fucking like the goblins are, and so we'll let this goblin out of this cage and she'll lead you or whatever. Well, that's a bad choice. So the entire way out of walking out of like that sanctum of people, you have to do checks every single fucking step along the way. Check every person you fucking pass. You have to be like, yeah, man, like they told me.
Or you can just cast invisibility on her.
Yeah, well, I didn't do that, and I didn't have that even. Well, it's like
I was a drow and I was welcomed into the goblin.
Yep, that's another thing, is the game recognizes a lot of different things that are minor about your character, and does have it affect the game. So the race you choose, the gender you choose, things like that can all actually have minor effects on how certain people react to you. And I don't mean that in a bad or political way or anything like that. We can keep that out of this. It's just like if you're a drow, then drows will be nicer to you, or the fact that there's drows in this camp that we mean. Or if you're a druid, when you go to the druid grove, they react differently to you because you're one of them.
Yeah, it's like I was trying to get her out of the camp, and it made me pass like 3 or 4 fucking checks where it was like, roll for persuasion, because I'm like, hey man, they told me let her out and take her to this one place or whatever the fuck. And it's very random. I honestly don't think you could play this game exactly the same unless you remembered everything that you did exactly the same.
But just in the middle of that, you have all the dice checks. Like, they're not going to land the same, so it is going to be different. And that is part of the beauty of the game, is the replayability in that. Now, it has the mechanical issue that 5th edition has, which is that levels 1 to 5 are kind of boring, just mechanically. Yeah. You don't feel like you have your full potential, which, again, you can argue it makes sense. You're a level 1 character. Why would you have your full potential?
Right.
But it just, at the end of the day, it isn't as fun.
Yeah, it's not. But I mean, you can get to that level 5 plus like pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, it's, as pointed out before, the game has rave reviews for a reason. It is worth it. It is incredibly fun to play. But that doesn't mean there aren't things that can't be critiqued or be done better. It's just those are the exceptions to the rule. But to continue back going through the origin characters, you've got Will, who is a human warlock.
Never even encountered that guy.
Because you did things in a different order.
Probably.
But he is a human warlock who happens to be he's known as the Sword of why can't I remember it now? The Sword of the Coast or whatever it is.
I don't know. Never encountered it.
But he's a folk hero who has been hunting down demons and evil things along the Sword Coast, which is a geographical location in the game that basically the entire game happens in. But it's just a small part of a much larger world of Faerun, or Toril is the world, technically, if I recall correctly. But he has a pact with a devil, and that devil and Raphael are such excellent examples of the way devils should be played, in my opinion, that I cannot recommend them enough as templates for running devils in your own games.
I think Raphael plays a fucking great devil. So good.
Absolute favorite fight in the whole game.
How did you even find him? How did you even fight him? It never gave me like the thing for it.
So that's the thing, is you actually have to. There's just a house that I think you go into the basement and you find out about this ritual that Gortash used to go to the Nine Hells to make the deal. If I'm not mistaken, the reason why Karlach was given by Gortash to Zariel, the archdevil of the first layer of hell, as part of a deal for some stuff, and he used one of the shopkeepers in Baldur's Gate. It's it's one of the devil. It's the devil or warlock-esque shop. But you'll find a note in this basement, just in this random house, that discusses that, and that unlocks the ability to, when you go to that shop, you can ask the clerk about that, or the shopkeep, and with the proper checks, she'll basically give you the ritual necessary to do it, and you actually have to put the things down in the right order and select them, and it's minor, but you do a ritual that opens a portal specifically to the House of Hope, which is Raphael's home in the Hells, his demi-plane or whatever you want to call it. And in there, you can both get the Orphic Hammer, as well as free hope. And when you go back, when you're about to leave, Raphael comes out and you get the boss fight, and it's awesome. Mostly because of the music score, but also just because he's a great character.
Yeah, there's normally I'm not cool with pop-ups and shit, but in this game I wish they had are you sure pop-up windows? Because how many times have I attacked Sebastian when trying to hit somebody next to him?
A lot.
Yeah. Every fucking
It's a learning curve.
There's some times,
the thing else,
and that's one of those bugs where, and this is what I was trying to say before. Okay, on my screen, I'm clicking on the enemy to attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it glitches and seizes up, snaps back, and it's oh, you attacked Sebastian.
I would say
you can click on the picture up above. Remember, yes. Sean taught you that.
Yeah, but I always forgot.
Better solution,
that is my
though.
Bad.
A better mechanical solution is to make friendly fire a toggle, where it's just a little checkbox off to the right of near the turn, the end turn button, that just says, "Do you want to be able to target allies with damaging weapon, attacks?" And you can just click the button, and it'll say, and if you click it, it won't let you, or if you don't click it, it'll allow you to, attack allies. That would allow people to have a little bit more of a leeway where it's just
that happened in
UI friendly.
My end game, I was trying to find who the fuck I was attacking at some points because there was just so many fucking enemies. You gotta go through each window. That's why I was I'll just hit this thing that it says, because I'm in the heat of battle. We're all playing. We're just having fun. And I'm okay, I'm just going to attack this dude like normal. And then my screen glitches and it's oh no, you attacked Sebastian. Oh no, you attacked the other Sean. It's what the fuck is happening? Like, I hate like the glitchiness of this game sometimes. Whenever it happens like that.
And that is one of the things where I said, like, while the game is incredibly well thought out, Act 3 has optimization issues, and supposedly some of that was fixed in this latest patch. But I know for my computer, I think my computer is probably the least powerful of all of ours. I had a lot of issues in Act 3 because it's just so large and there's so many moving pieces and characters in it. There'd be times where I'd have to just get up from my computer and walk away when I loaded into Baldur's Gate because it was just going to take too long.
Right. Yeah, a lot of weird-ass shit happens in this game. Like a
lot of that can be fixed just with a couple of optimization patches, but I don't think it detracts from the game enough to really be a major issue.
Right, like I would have my hand on the mouse and like my pike wouldn't return whenever I went to click it, and I was like, what the fuck? And then it would return real quick and I'd hit it, and it was like, oh, whenever you said what the fuck, you moved your fucking mouse like a tiny bit to the right. Attacked one of my own teammates. It's like, dude, you're fucking up this entire thing. Like, if you're gonna make this like a build, like a cool ass thing in the game, can you not fuck this up? Like, please, because this is kind of important. Like, people are next to each other all the fucking time in this game. So if you move your mouse a tiny bit, you could kill somebody on your team.
In defense, the solution to that, the easiest solution to that, is for you to simply pay more attention as the player.
No.
There are so many things going on in that game, and so many things that have to code and work together.
If I click and it says enemy, it should be enemy, not glitch screen half-inch upwards and say, "Oh, hey, this is you didn't click on the enemy. You clicked on," because like in the end game, like the final fight, that happened to me too. Dude, I tried that fight like fucking 5-6 times. Like, it took me a minute to get through that fight. And fucking,
there's a very fun way to quickly beat that, and that is to steal or buy a whole bunch of fireworks. And when you get to the Elder Brain, you just drop them all on the floor and then detonate them, and it'll one-shot the Elder Brain.
Oh, really? No, it wasn't the Elder Brain that was giving me a problem. It was the fight with everybody before the Nether Brain, where you have to activate the crown and shit. Yeah, like, I kept on clicking on my own characters, and it would glitch through. Like, I would click on an enemy, and it would glitch through and say I'm clicking on my own characters. And I'm like, look, man,
I'm gonna have to be honest.
This is ridiculous.
I apparently did that fight, or I got lucky in that fight, is I straight up, I had Karlach become the Illithid, and...
Oh, you did have a character becoming an Illithid.
And, because she was going to die anyways, and she wanted to do it, so I figured that just made thematic sense. And with her teleportation abilities, or her hover abilities, if you want to call it, she was going like first in the turn order. Straight up got her straight to the crown, activated it, and no one managed to hit her. And so she activated the crown by the next turn, and just went right in.
See, the guide that I was reading, because I couldn't understand, like, some of my characters, it wouldn't just let me click on the crown. So I pulled up a guide, and it said that you have to have the Emperor to do that. The Emperor is the only one that can do it. That's what it said.
It's not the Emperor. It's whoever has the Nether Tristone. So and that's determined by the cutscene before you get dropped into the final long fight in Baldur's Gate in the run up to there. When you're in the when you have the cutscene with the Emperor, and he's basically like, one of you has to become an Illithid and eat the prince's brain, and then use the Tristone. Well, it's whichever character has the Tristone. That's the character who has to activate the crown. So it can be the Emperor, it can be Karlach, it can be you, it can be the prince, depending on how you do things. Yes, there is an option to end up fighting the Emperor in the final fight if you choose the prince over him, and you use the Orphic Hammer to break the bonds.
I fucked the Illithid. I fucked him.
I know you did. You sent me a picture during work.
The video you sent me?
Yeah, the picture? Yeah.
You sent me a video as well.
I did?
on Snapchat.
I didn't know I had video. Oh, maybe I did. I don't know. Who knows?
You were drunk. It's okay.
Probably. In the morning after work, yeah, that could definitely be a possibility.
But you and I have been talking a lot, mostly me, I'll be honest. Why don't we let Sebastian and Mike say a bit about what they think of the game?
I like it. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I didn't get to play very much. I mostly played the beginning over and over again, trying to find a character I liked.
That's what I did.
Restartitis.
That's what
Restartitis. It's a real thing.
I haven't had time to play it as much as you guys have, and I haven't gotten as far as you have. So a lot of the stuff you're talking about, I'm like, yeah, I kind of just followed you guys and was Eldritch blasting things. So yeah,
Right. Like, I did so many fucking character changes, like, in the third act of the game, the final act. I was like, Sean, what do I need to make Gale actually blow shit the fuck up whenever he casts spells? She's like, oh, well, you need to be a warlock. I was like, well, I'm not a fucking warlock. He's like, hey, guess what you can do? And it's like the same time I talked about, like, whenever I first kept on restarting the game over and over again.
To be clear, you specifically wanted Gale to use Eldritch Blast to the best. I was like, well, then you're going to need some Warlock in you, because you need to get Agonizing Blast at the very least, if not Repelling Blast as well.
Right.
Because a lot of other characters can do things. Like, technically, you could have multi-classed him into Sorcerer as well, so you could Quicken Spell and cast Eldritch
great.
Blast twice in a turn.
He did great.
No.
He was a pussy. Like, he got killed a lot. Like, every fucking... Dude, every playthrough of that final battle died. He died on, like, his second turn. Every time. I couldn't stop
There's a thing you can do where you can have one of the characters in camp cast Death Ward on another character, and then you just swap him out of the party, and then he'll have Death Ward on him.
Yeah, I did not know that.
It'll at least keep him up the first time he dies. Or you can give him the Blood of Lathander, and I think that has an ability that brings you back the first time you die. It's either that or another weapon.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know he died every fucking time. I was like, alright, dude, you just fucking stand here. Don't even move. Just shoot at shit, and, like, we'll just run up the side and touch the crown and do all that shit. And that's what we did. I was surprised I was able to beat that dragon. At first, I was like, oh yeah, I'll definitely take him down. And he didn't fucking go down, like, nearly as easy as I thought he would. So I fought him off and killed him. Then we went through the crown, and we're jumping down there and shit. Apparently, when you fight the final fight against another brain, throwing things is like a death. Whenever I hit throw and I target the brain, it just says death, and it says you can't do anything. But it'll still let you click. It'll still let you click, do damage.
The reason for that is because the Elder Brain is technically sitting over a chasm.
Yeah,
and so if you were to say jump in there, you'd die.
Yeah, you have to target the spine of the brain, and on top of it, when you hit it with a throwing object, it would always give me, like, this death glow. Like, my character who threw it, you always get this death glow, and I don't know why that happened. But the first time
hitting the brain causes a psychic reverberation, so it has a reaction that does damage to characters.
Well, the first time I did it and got to them, that fucking glow, I was just sitting there, and it was my turn, and she just dropped dead.
Was that... Well, it casts... On its turn, the Elder Brain or at the end of whatever it is, it creates orbs of light above certain areas, which you can think of them as singular-use magic orbs, or whatever you want to call them. They will explode and destroy the ground and just drop your character into the chasm.
Yeah, no, she was just standing there. It was her turn. I was selecting the throw attack, and it was like, nope, and then she just dropped and died. There was no explosion, there was nothing. It was one of those glitch thingies. It was weird.
That is very weird.
Just fucking dropped dead. I was like, oh, well, F8, restart. Like, we're not fixing that. So. But yeah. Are there any origin characters we haven't gone over?
Quite a few, actually. About half.
John, keep talking about them. I'm going to go take my contacts out real quick. I forgot to. Whoops.
Gotcha. So, we finished with last off. We were talking about Will, who had a warlock with a contract to a devil. Now he is, I guess the best way to put it is a goody two shoes hero who doesn't actually want to do evil things, but because the devil preyed upon his desires to do good to force him into a less than optimal pact, he is constantly having the toe to the line where she is twisting the letter of the pact against the spirit of the pact. And so she's constantly getting the better of him and torturing him in that way. Like with Karlach, where it's he's only supposed to go. The pact says he's only supposed to go after the heartless, the whatever, the evil and the whatever. And she points out Karlach doesn't have a heart, so you have to kill her because she said so. And just little things like that. But he's pretty much a goody two shoes in a lot of the ways, and is your typical hero. Lae'zel is one of the first, or I shouldn't say, is
Fuck you, Lae'zel.
honestly an evil character. She is a Gith, or a Gith Yankee, who are a xenophobic plane hopping race.
Sounds racist.
Depending, well, that's what xenophobic
The
falls
Gith,
under.
no, the Gith. Gith is just sounds like a straight up racist term.
Well, it's one of the funny things because technically there is suggestions and theories in the lore that both the Gith and the Illithids are actually humans, just from the future.
Whack.
It's weird because the Illithids technically went back in time. It's very weird. It's very convoluted because you have to remember D&D's been around for decades, longer than any of us have been alive. And there's been a lot of lore that has come out for a lot of these settings. And so it's just, there's a lot of stuff that's going to sound like mumbo jumbo and what the F are we talking about? Because it took decades to get to this point.
Yeah, this game existed in the 70s and the 80s, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so just imagine all the crazy shit that it could be in this game.
Well, one of the characters in here is Elminster, who's another chosen of Mystra. Elminster, the character, is canonical to the Faerun realms and the worlds of Toril, and he is the character that was made and played by Gary Gygax, one of the creators of Dungeons & Dragons, his son. When Gary Gygax DM'd games for his son played Elminster. And his son's character was canonically introduced, and some of the adventures, is my understanding, were canonically introduced into the world. And so there's
that's such a cool cameo
that kind of
too.
stuff.
Like, like I love when movies do shit like that, but I've never seen a game do shit like that. And like whenever that happened, and you told me about that, I was like, okay. That's pretty fucking sweet.
Well, it's kind of funny. There's a lot of the spells, if you've noticed, have names to them, like Everard's Black Tentacles and various things like that. Melf's Acid Arrow and things like that. Those names are the names of the wizards who invented the spells. Almost every single one of those wizards doesn't exist on this world. The world of Toril that the game is played on. They exist on a different world in the universe. So this is an incredibly expansive setting that has been, as I said, created over decades. But to get back to the characters, Lae'zel, a Gith Yankee who gets caught up in everything. We really should explain the opening scene and all that, and the premise for the game, which is you are a character in the Faerun world, and these creatures known as Illithids, which are basically tentacled mind monsters that eat your brain. Yeah, they're Cthulhu men. They are.
Are they aliens?
The way they procreate is they capture individuals and they put an Illithid tadpole inside your eye, your nose. It goes into your brain, and then it transforms you through a process I believe was called Ceramorphous. I think that's the correct term. It's set in the game. And you become an Illithid. In fact, that's an And the idea behind the game, the premise of the game, and why you're doing what you're doing in the game is you are one of the captured creatures, or one of the captured characters who's gotten an illithid tadpole in your brain, and you're going to turn into an illithid unless you unless you somehow find a way to remove it. So your impetus or plot hook for the first basically half of the game, and you can argue the whole game, is getting the tadpole out of your brain. Now, you'll learn more things about it, that it's not that simple and it's not a normal tadpole and things like that, but at the end of the day, you still kind of have a choice. Do you want to become an illithid, or do you want to get it out of your brain and stay as a mortal? But Lae'zel, being of the Githyanki, or the Gith, because there's the Githzerai and the Githyanki, they were split off. They were once slaves of the illithid who managed to rise up and throw off their oppressors and now basically fight a crusade against them. But they aren't good people either. As mentioned before, they're xenophobic. And they are very much ends justify the means. The Githyanki in this particular instance are very, very devoted to their undying queen, Vlaakith, who is a lich. She's not a good person, but she's a demigod who wants to become a god. But the one thing the Githyanki guard against the most is illithid themselves. So when you're captured by this illithid spelljammer ship, they call it a neolithid, the Githyanki on their dragons are attacking it, and they're damaging the ship, and you basically escape. Because during the entire opening fight with the dragons on the Githyanki fighting the neolithid ship, you're planes hopping. You're going through the different planes of existence, and part of that ends up in hell and whatever else. But eventually you go back and you crash land after having escaped outside in the wilderness outside Baldur's Gate on the Sword Coast, and that's where you start picking up other characters and the like. Well, Lae'zel is a Githyanki who was captured by the illithid, and she also got a tadpole. But she is very, very much a zealous and arrogant character.
Piece of shit.
In a lot of ways, yeah. But she's also focused and very capable in her realm. And she's not above correcting her viewpoints on people, even as long as they prove themselves to her. But she won't respect certain things, and she believes certain things are just, she's practical. And, meaningless kindness and wasting time, she thinks are just a waste. It's weak. Very much a warrior culture, kind of like Klingons in that regard. But moving on to Karlach. Karlach is one of the crazier characters in it. She is a barbarian. She was traded away by a person she trusted, and that person is another integral. Honestly, it's an enemy, but potential ally in the final act of the game. But she was traded away as part of a bargain to the archdevil of the first layer of hell, Zariel. Zariel is the archdevil. The first layer of hell is called Avernus. And yes, you will see some connections to Dante's Inferno, but that's about where it ends. And she had her heart replaced by an infernal engine, which would take too long to explain. But essentially, she manages to escape hell when the illithid ship plane skips through it in the middle of the battle. And while you're also making your escape from the illithid ship. And she has this problem where the infernal engine that keeps her alive burns so hot that, first of all, she can't touch people, so she can't have a physical relationship with anyone, even so much as a handshake or a hug, or even a pat on the back. She could literally kill someone by burning them alive.
You trying to say I couldn't fuck that demon?
Absolutely, you're not able to until you progress through her story and get her heart shielded using Infernal Iron.
Yeah,
that's what the Infernal Iron's for in that blacksmith. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Yep.
But she also has another problem, which is the fact that the infernal machines, which her infernal heart is essentially the same kind of technology, can't really exist outside of the Hells. It requires certain, for lack of a better term, atmospheric and magical conditions to function. You can think of it about how, like, if you've ever bought a PC or a phone and you've read the disclaimer, do not store in a place below this temperature or above this temperature. It's kind of like that is the general gist of it. It's too cold, and the magic is wrong, is the best way that I can describe it. So her heart will break down and she will die relatively soon. It's implied that we're talking months, maybe years at the best. And so she's going to die unless she goes back to the Hells, and she refuses to do that. So she's a very sympathetic character, and she's very much your typical muscle junkie with a heart of gold, a soft underbelly. Then there is my absolute favorite character, and that's the Dark Urge. And this is a character that only you can play. They don't appear in every other character that's an origin character. If you don't play as them, they will appear in the story as a companion. You can you can get in your group, and you can still progress through their storyline that way. The Dark Urge can only appear in the game if you play him. Now I say that there are references to him, but we'll get to that. And the premise is when you wake up in the Illithid ship, like you do, regardless of what character you play, even if you play a custom one, which is what Tav is, it straight up tells you don't remember who you are, you don't remember anything, you don't even remember your name, just that you're the Dark Urge. But whatever it is, there is something in your head telling you to kill, kill, kill. And and it's all just that, amnesia mystery story of you trying to find out who you are. And the entire time, as you go through the story, you're getting these urges to do terrible things. Like I've explained it, when you meet Gale, he's trapped inside a portal, basically, and there's some funny things you can do. Like, he's like, a hand, please, and you can slap his hand, but you pull it out. The Dark Urge gets the option to bite his fucking hand off. As a Dark Urge specific conversation option. And there's many, many more like that. So the idea is you can play the character as giving into the urges or attempting to fight the urges as best you can. And if I'm not mistaken, refusing an urge requires something like a saving throw, but don't quote me on that. I haven't gotten very far in that playthrough, sadly. I kept remaking him because I couldn't decide what class I wanted. I have restartitis too. But, spoiler. The Dark Urge. I don't think Mike and Sebastian have gotten that far in the game. Did you guys get to the part where you met Orin, the murder psycho bitch of Changeling with the red weird armor?
Got that Act 2 with me.
Gotcha. So you don't meet her yet because you meet her at the end of Act 2. But she's a psycho killer person. She's the chosen of Baal, the god of murder, and cruelty and torture and death.
I thought that was a far easier fight than it was supposed to be.
It is a rather disappointing fight at the end of the day. The other fights are much better than that one.
Like, you just turned into Alien? Like the mom alien from Alien? Essentially, looks like.
That's the canonical Baal spawn. So that's the thing, is there were limitations, but I agree that is probably one of the more disappointing fights, just mechanically speaking. However, to get back to it, what you find out that as you're going through is the Dark Urge, you are another chosen of Baal, the god of murder. And so you can actually replace Orin and give in. Or you can refuse and basically say no to what is essentially your dad, who's a god, and he will just straight up take his power from you and kill you. Game doesn't end there, though. Withers, the undead character that joins you in your camp and is very cryptic and all that, it's not hidden very well, but it's basically suggested that he is straight up the avatar of Jurgle, he's like the celestial or something scribe, where he like writes down all the things that happens. But that's his newest occupation. His previous occupation in the Pantheon was the complete arbiter of death. He was the god of death. But then 3 mortals came to him, and the mortals' names were Bane, Baal, and Merkel. And they basically said, we want to become the new god of death. And he, it's not fully described, but it's basically implied out of boredom, just went, fuck it, you guys can have it, but you'll have to split it. And so he gave them his godly powers and walked away. But it's also sometimes implied that it was him playing a bigger game in the Pantheon celestial worldly plot. And so that's why he appears in this game as a seemingly guiding force opposing those 3 as they are attempting to upset the world. And if you, as the Dark Urge, the chosen of Baal, reject Baal, and Baal kills you by taking away the powers he gave you when he first created you, Withers comes and resurrects you, and basically says, "I shouldn't be doing this, but I fucking hate Baal." And I think your temerity to say no to the god that created you deserves reward. Your story should not end here, and you get to continue on.
Right,
So
Withers is definitely like second favorite character. I love Asterion so fucking much. Like I can't put him anything less than that. But Withers
the writing is just impeccable in this game.
And Withers is just a fucking awesome. Like, anytime you ask him anything about anything, he's just like, I got these wise words for you. I am sensei. like that's like the vibe he gives off.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the game, though. Let's talk about the game. From Act 1.
What in specifically? Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Act 1. Like, you start off, you're in an Illithid ship.
Escaping it, yep.
You gotta escape, and you can choose whether to rescue people on your way out.
Yep, there's a couple people you can rescue or leave behind. This would be a perfect time for Mike and Sebastian to actually chime in, since these are parts of the games they've actually played. What were your favorite parts of Act 1, Mike?
Can't really say, because I didn't even beat all of it. But
It doesn't matter. Just what were your favorite parts that you experienced, or something that surprised you about the game?
is that I only found Shadowheart to save. There's more people to save than that.
Oh, yeah. What?
No, there isn't. Not in the Illithid ship.
In the Illithid ship. Okay, yeah.
Act 1 is really long.
Yes.
I didn't realize how long Act 1 was.
Because it gives you the impression that when you go to the Githyanki Kretch area, when you go into the wilderness over the bridge, that's the end of Act 1. It's not. It's still Act 1. It's not until you go to the Shadowlands that Act 2 begins.
Yep. So my favorite part that we did is when she set off the explodey barrel and killed.
Yeah, in the Underdark with the
It was either that was my favorite, or what's the other one? The the goblin, when we snuck in on the goblin and killed it, and then just looting everything.
You talk about when we used Hold Person on the Goblin Priestess?
Yep, exactly. That was probably my favorite.
Fuck that bitch. She was trying to bamboozle us.
Bro, we got.
She can give you the brand
boozled.
though, and that's
We got boozled.
We didn't get boozled the first time, for sure.
I got killed by some owlbears and a hag.
I made out
the
with
hag
hag
is.
in a real D&D campaign.
An uglier hag too.
Wait, so you did find the hag on your own, Mike?
Yeah.
See, I didn't find her. I only found her whenever me, Sean, and Sebastian played. I didn't even know
I
that
found
was a
some
thing.
like random dudes accosting an old lady. I
Mhm.
was gonna let it play out, and then she just killed them and was like, went back to her hut with a chick there, and then she turned her into stew. And then I couldn't find a way past this door. Well, I did with the masks, and then I just got killed. So
What?
You were partway there.
Never did any
You
of
were-
that.
yeah, I was just gonna level up a little bit more. I killed some red caps and found some owlbears that killed me pretty fast.
The hag is definitely one where it's definitely not intuitive what you need to do to get through her lair. That is definitely true.
That one's weird.
Indeed.
Yeah. They said the door wasn't tangible or whatever. So I was like,
It's an
what
illusion.
can I
You can literally just
Yeah.
you have to get your character right up against it, and you can technically click past it and just walk through it. They didn't do a super great job with being able to walk through illusions in this game, but I kind of understand why. It might be a little too easy, and there are still, like I just saw earlier today, that there's an illusory wall in the Mitch. You fought the guy, the sorcerer and sorceress sundries who wanted the you to bring them the night blade, right?
Yeah, fuck that dude.
Yeah. Did you go into his vault down below?
No, I didn't. I didn't know there was one.
Well, you can go into his vault down below. There is apparently a hidden wall behind one of the chests, an illusory wall. If you walk through it, there's a spell. There's a spell scroll that allows you to summon divas, which normally only clerics can do. But you can have a wizard transcribe the spell into their spell book, and suddenly they can summon them as well. And it's there's just all these little things about the game that it's just like, wait, that's a thing. Like earlier, we did that in the Underdark, Sebastian and Mitch. Do you remember when we get up to the Arcane Tower in the Underdark and you fight the automatons up there?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's a chair up there. It's called the Chair of Giant Strength. And if you sit on it, you get a 19 strength score.
What?
But if you stand up, you lose it. And your character even mentions that. It's like you sit down and they're like, I feel so much stronger. But then you stand up and goes, wait, it went away. What stupid chair? If you break the chair, it gives you a club of giant strength.
Nice.
Okay, I did not know that. All right. I remember.
That's the thing, is there's all these tiny, tiny little things that you can just never find.
Sebastian, wasn't I? Yeah, I think it was just me and you playing that one day, and we were like jumping up all these illusionary mushrooms in the Underdark, and we found that one little area. And we were like, well, what do we do? And I just accidentally like walked through the fucking wall.
Yes, that happened the one day. You were like, oh shoot, I misclicked. Where'd my character go? And you're like, wait, I walked through the wall. We're good.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out why it led us all the way to this one place, and it's just a wall. And I was like, I don't know about this, and I accidentally clicked something, and then like I fucking walked through the fucking just like the cliff face,
Mm-hmm.
and like there's
You
just a
walk
whole
through the
other area.
through the illusory wall,
Yeah,
and you find a mushroom circle in there, and
Sebastian's like,
it
what
actually
the fuck? I'm like, what the fuck?
it straight up teleports you under the hag's lair.
Yeah, that didn't happen to us. I don't think. Right? We didn't go to no Hag's Lair, right? Did we, Sebastian?
It's hard to find out because you teleport we
did that with
you go
Sean.
through the illusory. Yeah, you go through the illusory wall. You go into the mushroom circle, and the mushroom circle teleports you to a location that's underneath Agatha, the hag's lair. Auntie Ethel. I keep wanting to say Agatha because that's from, I think, Strahd. But
It is.
And Shiv. Shiv has an Agatha.
fair. But you, I've never actually done it myself, but supposedly, like, if you have the fly spell or are good enough with the jump spell, you can jump up into basically you can get into the hag's lair from a different way.
Nice.
There's a lot of circular pathways in Act 1, intentionally so. So you keep looping back on yourself, and so when you it basically is an easy game mechanic way of telling you you're finished with this area, go on to another one. I'm not making you be like super far away from where you started.
Right. I think the biggest plot point in Act 1 is the village. Like whether you choose to attack or defend the village.
The Grove?
Yeah, the Grove, yeah.
The Druid Grove. That is indeed a major plot point.
If you rest too many times, you'll come back and everybody will be dead. Or you can choose to, like, if you don't do that and you just choose.
That's actually incorrect.
Well,
it's
see,
incorrect.
I just rested and I came back and everybody was dead. Like after I did the
because you triggered the event. That only happened because you had talked to Minthara and said, let's attack the Grove, even though you were lying. But then you rested, so she attacked the Grove without you. There's a guy who actually playtested this, because that was a rumor that was going around for a long time, that there was a time limit on Act 1 for certain events. This is not true.
Okay.
You can straight up just the moment you encounter the Grove and are told about the ritual spell and that they're going to close off the Grove, you can do 100 long rests and the Grove will not close off. However, if you do not resolve certain storylines and then you go to Act 2, the Grove will close off. Or if you engage the assault or the raid on the Grove through Minthara, then once that's started, the ball's rolling. If you take a long rest, the Grove's been slaughtered. And it's very much like how...
my first playthrough, they didn't... Like, the Grove was not slaughtered like that, but I went to Moonlight Towers. Yeah, that makes sense then, because whenever I came back, everybody was just dead. Like,
yeah,
okay.
Because the game takes into account whether or not you completed certain quests or how you completed certain quests when you move on to Act 2. And if you didn't do certain things or just did the wrong, quote unquote, wrong things, different events will happen, and actions have consequences.
Right, fucking wild.
But yeah, someone did playtest it. For the most part, it doesn't matter how many times you long rest in the game.
Interesting. But yeah, you can choose whether to defend or attack the Grove. I don't know what significance it really has. I mean, I know Karlach. I don't think it was because of that happened when I found her. She was like, "Oh, you helped those pieces of shit fucking do this," and it had like nothing to do with the Grove. Who was she trying to stop again? Paladins or some shit like that?
There were Paladins of Tur who weren't actually Paladins of Tur. They were sent by Zariel to bring her back, so they were devil worshippers. They were cultists. And I guess you helped them. I've never done that. I've never done it that way, where Karlach got pissed off and refused to join. But yes, there are certain characters have certain moral limitations and certain breaking points in the story where if you don't do things right or the way they like, they will enough times, they will eventually leave you. Like with Asterion, and Asterion, like it was fine for you. You finished Asterian's storyline, made him the vampire ascendant, and he stayed with your party. Me, I told him, no, I'm not going to let you sacrifice 1,000 people or whatever, and to become the Ascendant Lord, and he told me to fuck off and he hopes I die. And then he ran away with the rest of his vampire spawn buddies.
Right,
I stabbed him in the very beginning.
Good choice.
I tried to romance him or whatever, along with Gale, but apparently, I don't know if you can do this or not, but it wasn't letting me romance more than one person at once. So Gale ended up being the dude that was always like, "Give me a kiss." I was like, I'm trying to get like.
It's my least. Yeah, it's my least favorite part of the game. The fact that everybody's a super horn dog and wants to get in your pants from the moment they meet you. It seems like.
But that's real life. That's real life, bro.
For Sebastian, maybe.
Absolutely.
I feel you, bro.
But you are able to have polyamorous relationships in the game, is my understanding. However, certain characters aren't okay with it. Karlach, for instance, is one that you've encountered it before, Mitch, where if you try to romance her, because she can't have a physical relationship with you for most of the game, she straight up tells you, I'm okay with you banging other people because you can't get that from me.
I don't remember that. Don't remember that at all. Were we playing? Was that our game?
No, I haven't romanced any characters in the multiplayer games we played.
Yeah, no, she just told me you tried to help these pieces of shit, so you're a piece of shit. Now fuck off. That's all she told me. There was no romance.
That may have been in one of the multiplayer games, but it was you romancing Karlach.
Yeah, no, that was just in my game. That was in my game, and she was like, "No, dude, like, I'm not joining you at all." Like, you know what I mean?
But yeah, it is technically possible. Like that's where one of the things that came out of very early on in the game is you can have a threesome with Shadowheart and Halsin, and Halsin literally has sex with you guys as a bear.
Yeah, I was just about to say the bear sex.
It's like what the fuck? Yes, it's
Bear sex.
just what brings new meaning to the term bareback. But
whoa,
Yeah, you don't say that. Why would you say that?
oh, shut the fuck up, Smash.
Sure. And
Yeah,
that's
I
why
didn't
they
know that
make
was
them
the
be,
thing.
right?
I never got Halsin. I never got Karlach. I never got Will. Never got any. I tried to get Halsin, and they were like, "Oh, it looks like an animal's been here." Like, yeah, it's like Halsin was a bear, right? It's like, yeah, well, there's no bear here, and that's where the story ended. It's like I just never found him.
I think that's because you, since you initiated the attack on the Grove, Halsin broke out. But because the Grove died, I don't know if he shows up at the fight or if he just leaves because the Grove's been destroyed. So why would he stay around? And he can't kill all the goblins by himself, so he just leaves somewhere else.
It just gave me hints that there was a bear, quote unquote, here, and like there was just a bunch of dead bodies of the people like that tried to take over the fucking Grove, and like it never gave me anything else besides that. That's it. Like I tried. I looked up everything. Like nobody has an answer for it.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can't get Halsin if you attack the Grove. Now, don't quote me on that. There's some weird stuff you can do in the game to get characters, but
that's when I came back and everything was like fucking destroyed and everybody was dead. It just
but you initiated the attack on the Grove, correct? Or is that after you reloaded and did it a different way?
Oh, well, yeah, I initiated the attack, but I didn't get to lie to her, so I guess, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you initiated the attack on the Grove. That meant the Grove was going to be destroyed. Halsin, at that point, is my understanding is he breaks out because he's in prison underneath the goblin cage in a cage there as a bear. He breaks out, kills everybody, and I don't know for sure which. He either shows up at the fight and you kill him, or the Grove is already destroyed, so he leaves and you just never see him again.
I know when you beat the Grove fight from like the first time I played this game, just off the wall, not knowing shit. He did like appear afterwards. So I guess that's like the way you get him is you do the Grove fight and you defend the Grove and that's it. I guess. I don't know.
Blade of the Frontier.
Thank you.
Oh my! How long was that we? Did you ever just black out and come back like 3 hours later and we're still? I just remember something.
What is Blade of the Frontier?
Will
is Blade of the Frontier.
Hey.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah, somebody said Blade of the something, and I was like,
I said Sword of the Coast or whatever, and it's like, no, it's Blade of the Frontier. You are correct. Yeah. That is his title. That is his folk hero idea, backstory.
How do you spell his name? Isn't it weird? Spelled weird.
Wyll.
That's gross. Why would you do that?
Wyll?
Yep. It's a fucking fantasy world. I mean, I think it's a dumb way to spell the name too, but at the end of the day, again, it's a fantasy world.
Well, it's
Who
just
cares?
a cop out on the fantasy world. It's like, oh, what do we do to make this more?
There are languages that don't use I nearly as much as Y.
Right. Weird.
That's like,
But that's
Either
not my
way,
language, so I don't care. Not the language the game was written in either, so they can fuck off.
Right.
Respectfully.
Well, in D&D, it's not English; it's Common.
What?
Yep.
In the Faerun world, the language that pretty much everybody speaks is called Common, the Common tongue.
Weird.
Yeah,
But
I think that's a holdover from the Lord of the Rings, but don't quote me on that.
I don't know. I always thought the Underdark was part of Act 2, and then whenever you said that it wasn't,
Nope.
I remembered, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, it's not. That's fucking crazy. Act 1 is long as fuck.
It's huge, and I would argue Act 2 seems to be the smallest of all of them.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And Act 3 doesn't even seem that long either, if you really think about it. There's just a lot
I'm gonna
to
be
do.
honest.
There's a lot to do.
Yeah. Act 3 is not huge in the terms of, like, the different places you can go to, but the main map is enormous and has so much going on, and there are a lot of crazy places you can go to. Did you ever did you go to the underwater submersible area?
I did not.
See, you never went there. You never went to the House of Hope. You did
I went to the
complete
House of
Char's. You went to the House of Hope?
Yeah, is that Act 2 or Act... No, that's definitely Act 2. Yeah.
No, it's Act 3. You're talking not the House of... No, that's the House of Healing, where you fight the weird...
The dudes with syringes and shit.
Yes, that's the House of Healing. The House of Hope is Raphael's place.
I did not do that then.
Yeah. So you didn't go there. Did you go to the factory and kill Gorta to destroy the city, the Big Mc automatons?
Nope. I read about that and I was like, what the fuck is this thing talking about?
Yeah, so you blitzed your way to the end, basically. You did not experience about half of what you can do in Act 3. So that's probably why it doesn't feel all that big to you. Act 3 is
my whole
enormous.
thing was like, as soon as you enter Act 3, you can get the final weapon for your build, and it's the Trident of Nyana or whatever the fuck it is. It's like, yeah, I got it. And then it's like, okay, we're talking to a panther in a cage. Dribbles the clown is like cut and quartered. Got to find pieces of him. There's these god characters. Like, they're like the step down from the god. They're like their boys. Got to kill them and get their nether stones. Like, there was so much to do. I was like, I'm gonna do this main shit.
Act 3 is a bit overwhelming, and I did not complete every quest line. There were a couple, like I never put together the clown. I never defeated the fireworks shop, partially because that fight is so dumb.
Yeah, I got an arm, 2 legs, a torso, and a head from Dribbles the Clown. There's fucking 7 or 8 pieces to him. That is ridiculous.
Yep, it is.
If you don't follow a guide, you're not going to find that shit. There's no way. Like, there's no fucking way. Some of the places are just, like, random as fuck where you would find, like, his body parts.
Yeah, it's a weird quest, shall we say?
I mean, is it even worth it to get it done? Have you ever done it? Like, all of it?
No, I did not complete that quest.
Yeah, no, like, I read that you get some kind of staff, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. Like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah, what are you going to do with the staff? Throw it at people?
That's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I mean, it was just like a necromancer staff or some shit, I think. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And I was just like, well, I don't use necromancy. I just blow shit up with Eldritch Blast. And that's about it. Like,
I considered it because I was working a summons build, but I didn't actually use necromancy in it. It was all the elementals and all that, so.
How did the summons build turn out?
Combat takes longer, but when you can double or triple the amount of HP in your party, yeah, it's powerful.
I guess that's true.
I mean, straight up, it's action economy as well. You have, like, usually in fights, you've got your 4 characters, and there's usually anywhere between 5 to 10 enemies. So you're generally outnumbered, sometimes even, facing 2-to-1 odds. Well, when you have 5 to 8 or even 20 summons, suddenly you're the person outnumbering them, and it gets pretty easy to turn the tables, shall we say. But it can also be a huge headache when it comes to the fact of when you get into fights with tight corridors, and it's really hard to get your character. Like, you'll have a melee character who's stuck behind a couple summons, but is going before the summons, and so you just waste a turn because you can't get them past all the summons to do something. You have to wait until the summons turn to move the summons so they can run, and that's a little annoying. I wish there was a delay turn button so you could do that, and for all I know there is, and I just never found it. I never looked, really.
Right.
It wasn't worth it, because it's just summon builds really powerful. There's a ton of powerful builds in the game. I know.
Like, this Act 2 seemed to be the most... to me, Act 2 is my favorite part of the game.
It is It's got the best pacing.
It's got... I don't know. You gotta fight all of the siblings of Calthrek or whatever? Is that what it is?
Mm.
Is it like his siblings, or what is it exactly?
It's family members or something. I don't remember the exact relations, but essentially of Thorm.
Yeah, and there's always a trope to every boss. Like, there's one where you can drink him to death as long as you keep on persuading and doing the right checks. There's one that's like... And definitely the most powerful one. The one that's like, give me
The
gold!
The tax collector, yeah.
And you gotta keep on just being like, nah, dude, but what if I give you, like, a gold piece? But gold! It's like, you keep on doing that.
Those characters are excellent examples of how to design very, very difficult boss fights in a game without ruining the gameplay for other characters, because you create a way to beat them through dialogue.
Right.
And that just becomes a unique one-off thing for the game, for the characters who do that. But for the players who want a serious challenge in a fight, you provide these very gimmicky fights where you have to approach the boss in a very specific way, almost reminiscent of like an MMO or the like. And so you essentially provide you can scratch the itch of 2 different genres for players.
Right, there's like, I don't know. The gold person's kind of boring because it's like you just persuade them. Like, what was exactly that you told me with the gold person? Because I was on the thing with you whenever. Yeah, I was on Discord with you whenever you told me exactly how to do it, so I didn't have to fight him. What was it?
I don't remember what options it is, but basically I will say the dialogue for killing the Thorms is hit or miss.
Well, the drinking one was my favorite. You just have to outdrink him, and then he just like makes himself explode. But like, then there's the one that's like the surgeon one, where it's like, man, all these little girls that are just like learning from you to like scalp people, essentially, like fucking do ridiculous surgeries on people. It's like, well, how do they hone their skills? It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'd love to let them do surgery on me to get this worm out of my head, but they should test their skills on each other. Like, how good are they really? And like, they can do that, and then he's like, yeah, that was a good idea. They killed each other. They all killed each other, so there's no minions left. And he's like, well, it's like, well, what about you? Can you show me? Like, can you show me how good your surgeon skills are? And he just shoves a knife through his eye and he kills himself. It's like, that shit's awesome. That's like the cool ass shit. The gold one was uninteresting. The drinker one was good. The surgeon one was good. I didn't really like the gold one that much. That one was a little bit ridiculous.
It's a bit hit or miss with the killing them through dialogue. But they're meant to just be kind of appetizers and amusing fillers. You can really tell they were just kind of filling out the map in a way.
Right.
because for the most part they just have little bits of lore, but you can theoretically ignore them and it doesn't really seem to affect the story at all.
Yeah, you
So
can just walk
they're
past
optional
the gold
bosses.
one.
Yeah.
You can walk right past her as long as you don't go through this one building. Like, that's
Yeah.
it. The other ones, like, yeah, you'll run into them, but, like, there's way more story dragging you into their realms to where you're gonna, like, actually run into them.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, the gold one was just, like, kind of a cop-out. But yeah, explain to me the story of Act 2, because I really don't understand that entire thing.
So, Act 2 is about getting to the Moonrise Towers where absolute cultists are gathering. And absolute cultists, you learn in Act 1, are essentially seem to have some connection, as far as you can tell at that point in the game, to whatever is weird or different about the tadpoles in your head. And you apparently have this artifact that Shadowheart stole that protects you from the voice of the absolute, that all the people with the tadpoles in their head can hear, and apparently like mind controls them. And it's an issue because the leader of Baldur's Gate, who you later find out is Will's dad, estranged dad, has been captured and brought there, as well as many other characters that might be important. So you're heading there to try and figure out what the hell's going on and try and confront the absolute cultists. Maybe they can, maybe that'll help you get the tadpole out of your head. So as you're going through things, you basically learn that Ketheric Thorm appears to be the character who has re-risen in Moonrise Towers and has caused the area of the Shadowlands, which had always been cursed since the last fight with Ketheric Thorm. There's a lot of lore that's explained about the land. And you're basically the whole progress of that area is about getting to Ketheric Thorm and then confronting, killing, whatever him. But it's made very clear to you early on that his power of immortality stems from the Nightblade, which you got allusions to back in Act 1 through some of the Underdark stuff. And that actually falls into the Shar thing, into Shadowheart's backstory, and it turns out that
love it so fucking much, so good.
Oh yeah, you learn that the Nightblade is a celestial entity. I think she is classified as a diva. She may be a different kind of angel.
Look like a slave
or
to
celestial. She was basically Ketheric Thorm, through some weird rituals involving Shar, was... Well, it's weird. You see, there's a really, really freaking weird crossover, because the Nightblade is being held in a realm of Shar, and Ketheric Thorm is a chosen of Merkel. But there doesn't actually seem to be any connection between the two gods working. It's almost like it's weird, in my opinion, and maybe it's explained in other parts of the story, as to why the Nightblade is where she is, as opposed to somewhere that Ketheric Thorm has control over. Like, why is... It's just a little odd. And I either didn't get up or pick up or recognize the lore drops that explain the connection. But either way, you need to deal with the Nightblade either by killing her or freeing her to make Ketheric Thorm vulnerable, because he's basically immortal. You can't kill him. You even watch as a pike is thrust through his chest and he just pulls it out. He's just fine. He heals back up. But when you end up chasing him down underneath the... you beat him on top of Moonrise Tower, and end up suddenly these tentacles burst out of the top of Moonrise Tower, sweep everybody away, and he escapes. Typical, the boss fight. You beat the boss, but you don't beat the boss. So you chase him down into this hidden area underneath the Moonrise Tower, which turns out to be a Mind Flayer colony, where there's an Elder Brain. And that's where you start learning the true story of the tadpoles and what's going on in this. And that's that the three chosen of the Dread Three, the chosen of Bane, Merkel, and Ball, have managed to find these magical stones called Nether Stones and use them to control an Elder Brain, which is the entity that you can think of as like the all-powerful hive mind in a Lithid colony, which, as we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the game, are the people who put the tadpoles in you. And they then leave off, and you realize they're going to attack Baldur's Gate, or do something in Baldur's Gate, which that leads you on. You're heading to Baldur's Gate next. But in the meantime, you end up fighting the Chosen of Merkel and beating him, and it's a pretty cool boss fight, in my opinion, at the very least. And when you beat him, you learn a little bit more about some of the backstory and some characters that I didn't talk about, like with Moonlight Rest, or whatever it's called, show up. But overall, that's what brings you into... If I were to break down the 3 acts, the first act is getting your footing and learning about the cult. The second act is confronting the cult and finding out what's behind that. It's the Mind Flayers and the Elder Brain and the Dread 3 controlling it. And then Act 3 is about confronting the Dread 3 and finally the Elder Brain and deciding basically the fate of the Sword Coast. Will you free everybody? Will you condemn them? Will you rule over them?
Right, I get that. Then there's Act 3, where it's just like, okay, we got a lot of stuff to do. Let's talk about Act 3.
Act 3. You see, that's the thing, is Act 1 is purposefully very, very open world and very freeform. You can explore everywhere at your own pace. There are changes that will be affected if you go one place before you go another. As mentioned before, if you meet Karlach before you talk to Will basically disappears. I don't know if he ever reappears because we didn't move further in that campaign, but for the most part, it's freeform, trying to get your bearings on things but everything ends up pointing you towards Moonrise Towers. And Act 2, you have, for the first time, a very, very clear goal. It's about getting to Moonrise Towers, but you also realize very quickly you're going to have to find a way you need to confront Ketheric Thorm and probably kill him, but he is immortal, so you then after the first problem is getting to Moonrise Towers, because
it wasn't even a hard fight either. That was the funny part.
It depends on how your characters are built as to what fights are easy or hard.
I just throw stuff, man.
You've got very bursty potential, so a lot of fights that don't cause you to work other mechanics are pretty easy that way. It was the same thing with my ranger that did so much freaking damage because they're Gloomstalker. I could just burst most enemies down in the first turn. But the first problem in Act 2 is you got to get to Moonrise Towers, and there's a problem with that because the land is cursed. Then you quickly find out, well, yeah, even if you get to Moonrise Towers, you can't kill Ketheric Thorm because he's immortal. So you have to find a way to eliminate Ketheric Thorm's immortality, and that's how you get involved with the Nightblade. Then, once you've figured out how you handle that, you assault Moonrise Towers, and that naturally progresses you on to go to finding out about the Dread 3 and the Elder Brain and the Illithid Colony and what's going on with the Absolute. But unfortunately, then when you get to Act 3, it once again opens back up and becomes open world, do it however you want, find all the stuff, and the flow gets disrupted where it's very open and unrestrained in Act 1 as you're finding your way. But then in Act 2, it becomes very focused. And you can still choose to explore and go other places, but you kind of know your goal much more clearly. But then when you get to Act 3 again, it's like, well, confront the Dread 3. And for a good deep portion of Act 3, you're not really sure how you're doing that. And so you once again feel like you kind of lose your way, and it becomes a bit frustrating at times. But once you realize what you're doing, it picks up the pace again, where you can very quickly finish the game and ignore a lot of stuff in Act 3. But if you choose to, there's a lot to do in Act 3.
Yeah, I did a lot of little side quest things. Yeah, I just felt like every act was just walking into, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. And like, I love that. Like, I don't want to be told what to go do. You know what I mean?
Go figure it out.
Like, this is an RPG. Like,
yeah,
role-playing game. And so many games use the term RPG. And it's like, this isn't really an RPG. Like, this is an RPG. Like, you're supposed to make these decisions that are important and will completely affect every single thing that you fucking do from now on. Every single decision is there's a consequence and a reward.
Yep.
And it's like so many games use the term RPG, and it's like this. Look, man, just because I grow stats every level and level up does not make this an RPG. Like, I'm not making decisions. Like, there's a story. It's straightforward. You're making me play through it. I level up. I get stat boost. That's not a role-playing game. Especially if I can't change my class. Because then I don't have any kind of role. I don't, like, the role that you gave me in this game at the beginning, that's what I have to play. There's no role-playing in it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and Baldur's Gate 3 does an incredible job of blending having a focused story where there's a clear goal, but at the same time allowing a lot of freeform movement and open world interaction. And there's a lot of games that attempt that and never come close.
Right, it's like the role-playing aspect. It's like me and you talked about, hey, how do I make Shadowheart better than a cleric? Because I don't really like the cleric thing. It's like, we'll make her a, what was it, a moon druid?
It was a moon druid.
Yeah.
Moon druid.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't do what they did in Divinity, where they gave you the ability to choose what class they had at the very beginning when you meet them.
One of the reasons for that is because the classes the characters have are tied to their backstories. Like, Gale's a wizard because he's a chosen of Mystra, like the goddess of magic, and the Weave, which is, there are a lot of wizards who worship her or want to be her or be her chosen. So him being a wizard just makes sense. The same Astarion, you could argue, could go either way. His pact of being a warlock is integral to who he is as a character. Lae'zel could be anything, but them being very warrior focused, fighter makes sense. Karlach being a barbarian just makes sense. Like, every single choice that they have, every single class that the character has, or every single character's class was chosen very specifically to tie into their backstory. But so that's why they have that class to start with. However, the game also doesn't tie you into that and force you to be that. You can just go to Withers and camp as them and change the class.
Right, like, so, I had Shadowheart become a moon druid instead of a cleric, and then I had Gale become a warlock instead of was he just a wizard, right?
He was a wizard, yeah.
Yeah. And so much better. So much better and more effective in combat.
And the way I like to look at that is there's a canonical way to play Baldur's Gate 3. Such as, this is a story in a world and a setting that is much greater than just this story. It has a past, it has a future, there's stuff that's already happened, and this is a story being told in the game. So much like if you've ever played KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic has a canonical way the game goes. Even though you can choose to be good or evil in it, there's a canonical way that progresses through the Star Wars universe.
That's how
that story
Fallout
happened.
is.
Exactly. So, in my opinion, Baldur's Gate 3, you can view it the same way. There's a canonical story, the way, technically, according to the chronicles or the history of Faerun, when this story of the Baldur's Gate 3 story is being told, canonically, it happened a very specific way, and these are the classes that those characters were. But you playing the game can choose to tell the story your way, and thereby change their classes and have completely different outcomes from what the canon outcome is.
Right, like you form bonds. Like there's like this like bond factor, which much
Trust
like
me,
Final
yeah.
Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII has this bond thing that goes on that's unseen behind the scenes, and that's how this game is, kinda. And then eventually, but at least eventually in this game, it tells you like how much better you're like doing this like bond relationship. Like,
What's at
man-
the bottom of the character screen?
oh really? I never knew it even showed up.
Yeah, if you open up the party screen and you click on certain, I forget which page you have to do it, but at the bottom there'll be a relationship meter that tells you how much they trust you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like, I romanced Gale. Didn't mean to. Meant to romance Asterion because I played a chick character. And I thought this would be cool for like the experience, for the show, and everything. Yeah, no, I got Gale, and he's just like, yeah, dog, love you. And then at the end of the game, it's like, hey, man, are you sure you want to, like, do this, like, whole crown thing? Like, what? What, motherfucking bitch? What, like, second guessing now? You come all this way? Like, he started getting all pissy with me anytime I didn't say anything but yes. But, like, Asterion, I did, like, a good bond with him the entire time up to his final story, and it's like, hey, man, I'm just with you all the way, whatever you want to do. It's like, yeah, I'm going to ascend. Like, yeah, dog, you should ascend. You'll be fine.
It's fine. You just condemned 1,000 people's souls to the hells.
Well, hey, you know what? If it
Somebody's
makes me
got to.
beat the game better.
Somebody's got to do it. If it's
Yeah.
not him, it's going to
What
be.
do you mean you beat the game better? You had to reload it like 8 times in the final fight.
You
That's
taught us
because-
that, Sean.
That's because
You taught me
Gale. That's because Gale's
I did
a
not
fucking
teach you guys
asshole.
the quick load.
You did.
I
You
told you what
did.
key to press, but it's
You said, "Oh, just we're gonna save scum it," and I was like, "What's that?" And you're like, "Oh, it's where you save right before you
You
do
hit
something."
F5 and then you hit
F.
F8 when things don't go right.
no. I said if you really want, an outcome, you can choose save scumming. But just remember, the
first
thing we
save
save. No,
Hold
the
on.
thing we save scum is because you really, really, really wanted the illithid powers to be a bonus action, and I said the only way to do it is to do this, and we're gonna have to save scum it because you've got shit wisdom.
Let me speak my piece. The first thing we saved scum was when we were hold pursing the goblin priestess. You said, "Oh, just save it now, and we can save scum it." You didn't.
Yeah.
It was non-consensual because we didn't know what it was.
Oh, that's BS, because Sean Donahoe was there, and he's the one who told us to do that. We need to save beforehand, but Mitch kept going into it was taking long enough I could tell that he was manually loading. I'm like, you realize you can just hit F8, right?
You agreed.
Non-consensual,
You
my
agreed.
ass.
You were the one that said, "Yeah."
No,
Good
I
idea.
saw no purpose in doing the hold person gimmick
Sure.
on that thing. I killed her easily without bringing anybody in my game. I never had a problem with that fight. Sean's whole thing of the hold person gimmick was entirely unnecessary, but he wanted to do it.
Hey, to be
Absolutely.
fair, whenever I tried to do it, I also brought like the enemy into the fight, and then it was like fucking 50
Oh, I believe
to
it
1.
happened in your games.
Oh, it was terrible.
Didn't happen in mine.
No, there was a playthrough where I played that fight for about like half an hour, 45 minutes probably. I killed people on the way to the ladder, ran up this ladder, and we all just stood up on this like top thing. And I was like, I used the horn to call in the trolls, and they killed people, and then they were like, "Hey, dog, that'll be like 1,000 gold." I was like, "Let me get you next time. Next time I'll give you 5,000." I was like, "All right." Then they kept on fighting through those people, and it's like, "Hey, man, we killed those people." I was like, 5,000. Next time it'll be 10,000. Just keep going, right? All right. And they said, "Yeah, I got the good roll." Now, on the last one, when I was walking out, they approached me and they were like, "Hey, man, 10,000 gold, you got it?" I was like, "One more. Give me one more." I failed the roll. The only person there was only one fucking enemy that showed up. whenever they decided to ask me that question. And I was like, yeah, let me get you next time. And they were like, no. Because I rolled bad. And they were like, all right, now you get to fight us and the fucking one enemy. And it's like, oh god. And they fucking trounced me and I had to reload. So it was 45 minutes just completely wasted.
Which is why you should quick save. But I had a similar problem with the fireworks place, where no matter how I started that fight or how I went through that fight, one of two things happened. Either one of the NPCs used a stupid AoE spell and would set off the fireworks, blowing up everything, or somehow the guards could see through walls, and I watched it. I panned my camera so I could see what was happening on the many reload attempts that I did. Guards spawned out of thin air and ran into the building, and it's like, how? You couldn't see or hear. I had silence, I had darkness. No one should know what's happening in here, but for some reason it calls the guards.
I think the most bullshit spell in this entire game is that Hunger of Hadgar, or whatever the fuck it is.
Hunger of Hadar?
I fucking hate it.
It's a very good spell.
No, I hate that.
It's a fun combo? Cast Hunger of Hadar and then Wall of Stone, and you trap your enemies in it.
Sounds dangerous.
I just blow people up. Or throw shit at them and kill them. Like, that Hunger of Hadar thing just, like, fucks my... Every time somebody casts it on me, I'm just like, oh, I'm fucked now for a few turns. That's like a 100% certainty. Like, no. I hate that. Hate that shit. It's more like it's more like just like a battle fucking like extension.
It's a battlefield control spell.
It's just extension. Darkness. This is going to take a longer time, a way longer time, because this person casted this on you.
Well, if you want to know how to beat that spell, you just need to have one of your camp companions cast Freedom of Movement on you, and then it won't slow you down.
Ah, well, I just usually run out of the cloud and throw shit at people.
Yeah, just throw shit. You got this.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Dude, those hammers are awesome. Like, the spear is fucking sweet, but that hammer just fucking hits so hard, knocks everybody prone like 100% of the time. It's great. I love it.
I love it too. I love when you throw hammers at me.
Are you saying you love getting hammered?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a stupid question.
Yeah,
so we need to continue. We need to continue that campaign. Well, now I got the Linkin Park song going in my head. We need to continue that campaign though, because Mitch still hasn't had a chance to throw my character and kill boss with it.
I have to do that.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Let's do it at some point soon.
What the shit?
I also learned some combos with spells and the like, where it's like, Jesus Christ, I didn't realize that worked that way, and I should be using it.
Just let it happen.
Like, there's a combo with Fowler Alluve, that singing sword in the Underdark that you can pick up. One of the options for its class for the action it gives you is it shrieks. And any enemy, I think, within 6 meters, when hit when dealt damage, receives 1d4 additional thunder damage. That includes if your allies hit the target, which combos incredibly well with Eldritch Blast and Magic Missile.
Oh.
So, like,
okay, yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah, it's an additional d4 thunder damage on all of that.
Well, it's like that trident. Like, that trident is supposed to be like the big thing for my build.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I get so up close and personal with everybody, like in the battle, it's like you can't just throw that trident like willy-nilly, because it fucking damages everything in like a huge fucking radius with lightning damage. So it's like the returning pike,
you did over 50 damage to Shadowheart in the Temple of Shar fight.
Well, I mean, motherfucker, back up. Like,
you control her.
The returning pike is just so much better. Like it just knocks people down. It doesn't do this chip away damage on the side. Like I could just do that on my next turn by throwing like the pike. Like I don't understand why they were like, yeah, this lightning damage thing. That's the way it is. Well, if it didn't fucking do like a huge radius of damage, I'd love it. But outside of that, like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's one of the ones where you can play the game differently. For instance, let's say instead of using a melee, frontliner like Shadowheart as the Moon Druid, you could instead play her as a regular druid where she casts things like Entangle and Spike Growth and basically does battlefield control. So the enemy never gets to move and actually confront you, and then you can just throw everything at them at range. There's problems with that because, of course, there's a lot of enemies that can teleport and do different things, but to close the gaps. But if you play it that way, it all depends on how you want to play around the build.
Yeah, Shadowheart and Asterion were basically like... basically, once I got that trident, they were just like, "'Tis but a flesh wound. Keep going." It's like, anytime I threw that trident, they were getting fucked up. Both of them.
In that particular fight, what really was causing an issue was the fact that you the darkness was screwing you over because you couldn't throw into the darkness.
Yeah. Especially on that final fight, though, where they were like, "Oh, you can't attack the brain. You can attack the stem of the brain." It's like, what is this? Why do I have to click on a separate part of this thing's body just to like do some damage? It's like the first time I played that fight, I could have won it, but right at the very end, what happened was I threw it, and it was like 2 fucking throws away, which I get like 5 fucking action turns if I can turn with that throwing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like in the middle of that, for some reason, the floors, like 3 of my people were standing on, disintegrated, and then my character just dropped dead. Yeah, that's why I was pissed. Like, I almost did it first try. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? So I just wasted all that time. I don't know, did you ever beat that red dragon at the very end?
Oh, yeah.
During the fight? Yeah, okay. It gives you an achievement for doing that. I don't know why, but...
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just wondering. But yeah, let's talk about Act 3. And wrap this up.
Where do you want to start?
Act 3.
I wasn't there for it, so you two are going to talk, and I'm just going to listen.
Do it.
Act 3 is a lot.
A lot. Talk about the circus.
I barely did anything with the circus. I'll be honest, I did not enjoy the circus. I find that kind of addition to games tends to break my immersion. I don't know why it didn't feel right to me. And I know plenty of other people who loved it, but it just didn't jive well with me, so I mostly ignored the circus.
So my build was based off of, I had to get that quote-unquote the best weapon for me, the trident, which kills like everything around, everything I throw. There's a genie who spins a wheel, and no matter what, you lose.
Yeah, he cheats.
If you have somebody like Asterion in my party, fucking sneak him, go up behind him and pickpocket him, take his ring, and then you talk to him. He's like, what the fuck? No. And he like transports your main character to like a jungle world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing in there but dinosaurs. There's like just raptors everywhere for some reason. So you got to find your way back to the portal, and right next to the exit portal there's a chest, and that's where you get the trident of Nyana or whatever the fuck it's called, which is like essential for my build. And that was like the big thing there. I spent a lot of time in the circus, but I didn't do hardly any quests in the circus, if you know what I mean. Like, if you go up to like the animals in the cages, I would like use like a potion of animal speak and talk to them, and they're like starving fucking animals, and they're all pissed the fuck off real bad. And there's like a stage where they're like, let's get a volunteer, and you get picked, and you go up there, and they're like, oh, we're gonna kill you now. Like that whole area just doesn't make sense to me.
And that's generally the crux of, or the focal point of Act 3 is in Act 3, you are interacting with the two remaining chosen of the Dread 3. Gortash, the chosen of Bane, the Tyrant, and Orin, the chosen of Baal, the murder god, the god of murder. And Orin is a psychopath killer.
I do love Orin as a character.
She has her good points, but she's a psychopath and horrible, just morally speaking. But all of them are. Gortash is what you would call an anti-hero.
I get that.
He plans on ruling over the world, and perhaps anti-hero is a bit of a stretch because it's not really explained. Generally, an anti-hero wishes to resolve a problem. They actually wish to end a bad thing that's happening. But they believe that it needs to be done a certain way. And that way is generally, basically, its ends justify the means. Lex Luthor is an excellent example of that. He's an ends justify the mean character. He actually intends to bring about a better world, but he doesn't go about it the right way. However, as you're interacting with these two chosen, you're basically Orin wants you to kill Gortash for her, and then she'll fight you to death. She wants a showdown.
Yeah,
she wants a spectacle.
Fight. Yeah,
she wants a spectacle for her god. She doesn't really have an end goal, so to speak. Like, she doesn't have a plan for what to do with the Elder Brain or anything. She just wants death and destruction on a mass scale, and she wants to be at the center of it. While Gortash, on the other hand, wants to rule over everything, but he's willing to share that with you. So he's very, very practical, and I've used practical far too many times because I can't think of the better words that would describe it.
Like, you wouldn't expect, like, one of the final boss, like, one of the parts of the final boss to be practical, and he's like, yeah, man, I mean, really, if you can do this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's like, I brought the two together because I needed to, because the Dread 3 worked together and all that. I needed them to, work together with me, but they clearly weren't planning on working together with me, and they were going to backstab me either way. So, how about you? You want to join me? We'll rule the world together. And he follows through. If you join him and, follow through on your part of the bargain, he follows through. And you basically rule over the Sword Coast together. But at the end of the day, if you follow through on the Goody Two-Shoes path, it's about finding ways to kill them and to retrieve their nether stones, so you have all three, so you can control the Elder Brain and kill it, theoretically.
Which, by the way, I tried to do, and I failed every fucking roll on that nether brain.
Well, I actually managed to succeed on every roll. I used all my inspiration to do it and only reloaded once. But the final one is a difficulty 99.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. It's not intended. Because that's the big spoiler of the game, is it turns out, and I don't know how to properly... I haven't made up my mind about how I think about it, but what the game says is that the Elder Brain actually planned all of this itself. And to be fair, an Elder Brain, the monster, is supposed to be otherworldly intelligent. It's a goddamn giant brain. I mean, what were you expecting us to have a low intelligence? It's supposed to be just so intelligent we can't comprehend it. It's just leaps and bounds ahead of us. It's like I don't know if anybody's ever seen Neil deGrasse Tyson is all over YouTube and shorts and the like, spouting sometimes shoddy science and sometimes very, very good science. But he talks about beforehand where an ape, the smartest ape, can't do things that even a toddler can do. So if we were to encounter an alien species that was more intelligent than us, there's a decent chance that we would we'd wheel forward Stephen Hawking back when he was alive. He did die, right? Or am I?
Yeah,
He's gone. He's gone.
Yeah.
He also used to hang out on Epstein's Island, but that's a different story. Go ahead.
Yes. Him and just about everybody else.
Epstein didn't kill himself. That whole thing.
But we would wheel forward Stephen Hawking, and this alien race that is more intelligent than us would go, oh, hey, look. He can do, astrophysics calculations in his head, just like little Timmy here, who just graduated kindergarten in their race. And that's the idea, is an alien species that is advanced enough to travel the stars and do certain things is probably is a magnitude more intelligent than we are. So that we cannot simply comprehend things that are simple to them. And that's the idea behind the Elder Brain, is the Elder Brain is so freaking intelligent, it's magnitudes beyond a normal person. You just can't comprehend the way its brain works because it thinks that many steps and leaps of logic ahead of us, like we do to an ape. There are just concepts an ape can't understand that we take for granted. And so for that reason, it apparently it's purported in the as you're going through the story that the Elder Brain actually intended all of this. And the whole idea was to allow it to evolve and to create an army for it. And I don't buy that from a storytelling perspective. I kind of look at that and go, there had to be an easier way to do this. This is a bit convoluted and puts you at a disadvantage. Unnecessarily. It makes the Elder Brain way too vulnerable for far too long. And that's kind of the problem I have with it. However, it's supposed to be a creature that is far too intelligent for us to comprehend, so it clearly knows something I don't, is the cop-out. And you end up things are thrown on its head, that's the big twist, and you have to basically it's decided you need to become an illithid to control the nether stones and eat the Githyanki prince's brain, which we haven't really talked about, but I don't think there's enough time tonight to go through the entire story step by step and every nuance of it. I mean, but overall, you're dealing with
illithid. I just chose not to be one.
Yeah,
because
you're dealing with the Dread 3,
and I wasn't trying to mess up that face.
But Act 3, you're dealing with the Dread 3, deciding how you're going to confront them so you can gather all the nether stones, whether that be cooperation or just murder them. Or pick one of them up like a baby and throw them off a cliff. Love that speedrun, is so great. And then trying to control the nether brain, finding out the nether brain treated you, all as fools and pawns, and then confronting the nether brain after you change up the story and make a tough moral choice. And everything starts coming to a head in that final fight. The final fight is definitely an instance where it's like, you had this idea of gathering a bunch of allies, but your implementation of using the allies in the final battle is pretty lame and bad. Like, it takes an action and you summon in a couple of either one-time effects or very ineffectual allies.
They're just distractions. And
the view behind it for me is I was running a summoning build, so it was like, I don't need these. It's better for me to use my action casting a spell or attacking, so I'm just not going to summon anybody. And yeah, so I felt like they had this really, really cool idea in their heads of how you'd have this huge final fight with a bunch of allies that you could call in to level the playing field, or you went it alone and didn't get any allies, and now you have a harder fight. But at the end of the day, the allies don't really make the fight any easier, so it was ineffectual.
I thought it made it easier just because everybody attacked them and not me making my way to the crown.
Which, hey, that's a fair thing. I only played the final fight with a summoner build, so I didn't have that issue. I already had that mechanic built into my party.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird ass fucking fight, dude. Like, I don't know. I made 2 summons. I made the zombie guys. I dropped them right next to the dragon, and then I dropped the rest on like the right side of the map where all the tentacles were popping up, and then we just jumped our way to the crown, essentially. killed the two illithids there, and then we just started the thing, and then the dragon would finally turn on us, and then we'd have to hurry up and make our way through the portal and kill the brain.
Yep.
So,
Overall, it is a spectacular game,
right.
and highly recommend it. And we need to finish our multiplayer campaign so you can throw Bartholomew at the Elder Brain to kill it.
Have to do
I hope that's what happens.
Yeah, I'm definitely down to keep going on.
One could hope.
Whatever happened to other Sean? Sean Kane, right?
That's
Donahoe.
that we're
I'm Sean King.
Okay,
Donahoe.
other Sean. Sean Donahoe.
He disappears all the time.
Yeah, we haven't played with him since, the first time we played?
No, we played twice.
He's a hermit.
He
He will
just
occasionally
disappears.
just disappear.
But yeah, super fun game. Highly recommend. Any final notes before we end the podcast?
Well, if you're just looking at a good way I find to look at games is dollar value to hours, of entertainment.
Right.
And if
That's a good way.
we go and look, I've seen some people, float different amounts of dollar entertainment. Like if you say, like, is going to the movie worth it? Well, if, movies, last time I went to a movie ticket was like $20. $20 for 2 hours, that's $10 an hour for entertainment. For video games, I often hear it said it should be $1 for 1 hour of entertainment. So if it's a $60, game, you get 60 hours of entertainment out of it. I've gotten it was a $60 game, and I've gotten over 180 hours out of it, and I intend to play more of it. So it's
Yeah, I got 150. So,
you're going to get the bang for your buck as long as you've got the time to play.
definitely.
How many hours do I have?
I don't know. Check your Steam account.
Right.
I'm at 33.6 hours. So
Those are rookie numbers.
Man. You haven't lived, man. You don't even
Dude's
know.
been busy. He's delivering our freaking mail. So
I'm constructing things, allegedly.
Allegedly. But yeah, good ass game. So. It's my pick for the next game. I don't know, Sebastian, if you have time to play or whatever. I think I'm gonna pick Tunic. Yeah. You guys ever play Tunic?
Where do you get that at?
You can get it on the Microsoft Store. You can get it on Game Pass. You can get it on anything. It's basically the Legend of Zelda, but
You're a fox.
you're a fox, and it's a Souls-like. So, have fun. It's pretty fucking hard.
I'm looking at it right now. I don't think this is going to be fun.
Oh, it's very fun. It's just pretty hard. Pretty hard. I would look up a guide, honestly, because you're not gonna know like where to go. So, I would do Star Wars Battlefront because I've been like itching, but they don't have it on the Microsoft Store or Xbox Game Pass. They only have it on Xbox. Like if you just plug in an Xbox and play it, that's the only way you can get it. For some reason, on Game Pass, it's not even on there, even as a buying option. You know what I mean?
why not just use Steam?
Is Battlefront on Steam? Hold on.
Battlefront 2?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm looking at it.
All the Battlefronts are on Steam.
I'm a good Battlefront.
Oh god, I was such a huge fan of the original Battlefronts.
Well,
The ones on the original Xbox. Those are so
And, and the PSP. Like, come on.
Fuck that.
I stopped playing consoles when the PSP came out.
Really?
No. Yeah.
Actually,
No, my last console was a Xbox 360.
Oh
Dude,
my
the
gosh,
Switch?
Red Ring.
The Switch is gangster, though. You should get a Switch.
Switches.
Oh no, I've seen
Which
it. It
is
definitely
gangster.
looks good. I wasn't playing video games at that time anymore.
Well, you're gonna buy, like, say you bought it like now, you'd have just enough time for like the Switch 2 to come out. 'Cause
Exactly.
It's supposed to come out next year, so.
I'm having fun with Mario Kart and Pokemon and destroying people in every game I play.
Which Pokemon game are you playing?
Oh my gosh, what's the purple color?
Scarlet?
The other
That's red, violet,
one.
amethyst.
Violet. Yeah, Violet.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I forgot Violet was a purple color. All right, yeah. Have you experienced any of the glitches that everybody talks about?
Which ones?
Where like you just go through walls, or like your body is elongated and you just look like a horrific fucking horror creature.
So I wasn't under the influence. Okay, yeah.
Really?
No, what he's saying
I was
is
just
he
like,
was.
what's going on?
What he's saying is he was under the influence, and he wasn't sure if what he was seeing was the influence.
No.
Or
I
the
get it. That's
game.
why I said really, because well, everybody was talking about that, and I never got those glitches on my game. Even when it first came out, like I just never got those glitches. I finished the game. I didn't finish the end game DLC thing that they're doing now. So but yeah, Pokemon's super fun. You should play Arceus. Play Arceus Legends. That's
I
like,
don't even have time to play anything else. Chill out.
what do you mean, bro? You gotta play games all day, every day. That's all you do when you come
I
home.
am playing games with these hoes. I'm just kidding. I don't have time for that either. Or do I?
He's like, no sex for the next 2 weeks. I got shit to do.
I don't think I could. I could make it like 2 days.
Do better. Think of yourself before them. They aren't important.
No, Sebastian, be different. Don't do better.
Yeah, don't be sorry. Be different. That's my saying, Sean.
Yeah, that's why I said it to you.
It's like my daddy always said, don't be mad
I'll
at
be
sluts.
back.
Sluts are good people. We need them in society. They all serve a purpose.
I can't be the only dumbass here. That's what I always say.
The problem comes when it's contagious.
Yeah, when Sebastian
The
just play
slut?
a game for the podcast and all he does is teach
No.
anal to bitches.
Dumbass.
Dude, teaching them anal is amazing.
It sounds like pretty gross.
And this is where I leave the podcast. You can switch this to an R18 channel and have fun.
All right, everyone. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us for the Talk of Baldur's Gate. We're going to have some after hours talk now. So
Later.
Later.